All right, everybody, we are live. We are live on the Murph and sometimes Edubbs show. That's right. I call this the sometimes Edubbs show because Edubbs always seemed to be on some kind of mission. He said Friday night that he was going to the Nets game with some friends he knows from Israel. I don't know. Let's see what happens with that when he gets back on the show for the sometimes Edubbs show. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about. It's Super Bowl Sunday, guys. And Super Bowl Sunday is the day where we kick back, relax, and enjoy football. We can enjoy a football game because there are sometimes a lot of the players, a lot of the fans out there, their team isn't playing on Super Bowl Sunday. Me having the luxury to enjoy a Super Bowl for every single Sunday of my entire life because my Jets will not make the Super Bowl and will not win or play in a Super Bowl until Mr. Namath happens to pass away. So I don't know if that's good juju or bad juju to give Joe Namath on Super Bowl Sunday. But you know what? I, for one, think that that's the only way the Jets are ever going to excel and win a Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame today. The Hall of Fame was inducted over the weekend, and there was one name that was noticeably missing. I mean, Giant fans might be a little upset about that, but we are going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about some stories that are going around in the NFL about some unhappy players on the defensive line for their respective team. There's a lot of stuff going on in the NBA. Celtics beat the Knicks last night. That was a big game. Celtics needed to win that game, as did the Knicks. Celtics 131 to 104. Seems like a pretty big win to me. Jimmy Butler plays for the Warriors. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out. Got the Cavs in first place. OKC is one more year more mature. Shai Alexander, number one scorer in the league, averaging 31 points. You got the Lone Ranger who just goes on from team to team and decides one year from the other. Do I want to trade? Do I not want to trade? Or I might just stay here. KD is still with the Suns. He did not get traded. And let's see what happens there because I don't know if I'm not even going to say that and speak on that because I don't know if that happened. The Nets are still lost. I don't know what's going on with them. The Nets cannot find an identity. The Nets can never find an identity. And you know what that means? That means it has to be the ETS in their name because the Jets, the Nets, and wait a second, I think the Mets are starting to find an identity. You know, we're going to talk about a little baseball today, but I'm going to talk about that last because, like I said to you guys before, it is a big day in the sports world because the Super Bowl is key and football is key. So a little later on, we are going to get into a little NBA. We are going to get into my prospective lineup for the New York Mets. But first, it's Super Bowl week. That's right, guys. It's Super Bowl week. We got a lot of stories. We got the NFL. We got the NFL being announced. Now, the NFL Hall of Fame was announced over the weekend. Now, you got four guys that were inducted into the Hall of Fame. You got Eric Allen. He was a beast in Philly, deserving of the Hall of Fame. He was a beast at cornerback. He hit hard, had a lot of interceptions, and that's a man that should be in the Hall of Fame. Jared Allen, sack machine, ass kicker his entire career. Jared Allen does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Antonio Gates. Anybody remembers Antonio Gates? Antonio Gates was a tight end, played for the Chargers, and I think he was pretty good if I do remember correctly. Now, here's a name that was on the list that not that I forgot about him, but when you hear his name, and I was like, wow, thought maybe he would have been in the Hall of Fame a lot more sooner. But you know what? Sterling Sharp made the Hall of Fame over the weekend. Now, Sterling Sharp making the Hall of Fame and watching Shannon Sharp, his brother, go to his house, ring his doorbell and make the whole introduction and everything was pretty cool. And I think that that is a really cool part about what the NFL does when they go to people's houses and they let them know that they're going to be immortalized in the Hall of Fame. I thought Sterling Sharp would have been immortalized a long time ago, but I don't know if anybody knows anything about his career. Green Bay Packer fans should definitely know about his career. So he was a pretty damn good wide receiver and big time deserving of the Hall of Fame. We're going to get to a name now that a lot of people have been talking about. A lot of people are saying that this man doesn't deserve the Hall of Fame. And a lot of people out there are saying that this man does deserve the Hall of Fame. But really, what I'm coming up with is when you say this man's name, Eli Manning, what's the first thing you think about? First thing you think about with Eli Manning is Eli Manning beat the greatest quarterback ever to put on Super Bowl cleats. That's right. He beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick twice. Okay. Tyreek, was it? What was that pass? I forgot it was called. David Tyree bought the ball on his helmet. But you've been listening and you watch all the stories and you remember the Super Bowl. What people do fail to remember is the fact that Eli scrambled his ass off, got out of the pocket, and threw that ball. David Tyree made a really good catch, but Eli Manning came up in a big moment. You also forget during that series, I think it was that one, or it might have been the other one, where he showed up against a Brett Favre led team that was, needless to say, it was very cold that day. Everybody thought Eli looked scared on the sidelines. Everybody thought that Eli was just going to fold. Everybody thought that the New York Giants could not come in to Lambeau Field and win that playoff game. Eli pulled it off. There's a lot of magic that happens in stuff that Eli does when it comes to the playoffs because he's always seems to have come up big. And when I mean big, by winning two of the biggest Super Bowls that I think that maybe any quarterback in the history, because the 18-0 New England Patriots were poised to be undefeated, and Eli Manning did not let that happen. It was a pretty good defense on that Giants team too, but other than that, I think you would say that Eli Manning definitely came through in a big spot. Now you're going to listen to the people that are not fans of the Giants and don't live in the New York area. I don't think we'd be having this conversation right now if we weren't in New York, or Eli Manning maybe played for the Detroit Lions and did what he did, maybe, and maybe he played for the Cleveland Browns, or maybe he played for even the Jets. Now, Eli Manning, at best, is a little bit better than a mediocre quarterback in the regular season. He threw a lot of interceptions. He played every day. I mean, you look at his stats, he was always in the game. I think he played 500, was it 500 games in a row or something like that? Some kind of sick number. But anyway, he was an Iron Man. He was poised. He was calm. He didn't, even when he was under pressure, he didn't look like he was under pressure. He always had that look on his face. The Hall of Fame committee decided that Eli Manning is not going to become a member of the Hall of Fame, not this time. Four guys made it ahead of him, and Eli did not. And as they say in the world of the Hall of Fame, not this year, Eli, maybe next year. But I got to tell you, if anybody looks at the Hall of Fame selections from last year, from this year, that are going to be possibly selected next year, Eli Manning has even a tougher class to go up against. You got guys like Larry Fitzgerald on that list. You got a whole bunch of guys that are really deserving of the Hall of Fame. So I think Eli Manning is going to be up against it for the next couple of years. I mean, was there any conspiracy theories back in the day that because the way Archie Manning bullied Eli Manning onto the Giants, maybe that came back to bite him in the ass? I'm not saying that's true, but people have been saying that. Are people out there saying that they're just sick and tired of the Manning family thinking that they deserve stuff? I don't see that either because I don't see the Manning family as that kind of family. Although I don't know too much about Archie, I don't think Peyton's that way because if Peyton was that way, he would have been hammering on the door of the Hall of Fame for the last couple of weeks saying, you guys better let my brother in. I'm not doing any more promotions for you guys. But that's not true either because Peyton, deserving Hall of Famer, one of the greatest regular season quarterbacks ever. Peyton's brother, Eli, really good playoff quarterback, mediocre regular season quarterback. And that is why he's going to have a really hard road getting to the Hall of Fame the next couple of years. Okay, now I, bashed Eli a little bit. Not that I really bashed him, but I'm just kind of like, I'm not a Giant fan, so I really don't have those big memories. I mean, I'm a football fan, and I just got to look at it from a perspective of just being a football fan. And Eli Manning is not a Hall of Famer in my eyes. I mean, I'm going to get beat up by some of my Giant fan friends by saying that, but at the end of the day, you guys are the ones that saw it. You guys are the ones that are saying that he should be a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying maybe it's just a matter of you guys maybe getting caught up in the moment. And Eli Manning was our savior, and he won the 2 Super Bowls. Awesome. Like I said, those are 2 of the biggest wins in Super Bowl history. But does it bring it to the Hall of Fame? I don't know. Some people think championships do bring it to the Hall of Fame, me being one of them. So it's definitely up for debate. It's definitely up for debate from Giant fans and people just watch football. And let's see what happens next year, Eli. Well, good luck. I know we're going to see your face all over the Super Bowl commentary today. We're going to see your brother. We're going to see Belichick. We're going to see all the usual suspects. So during today's Super Bowl cast. Okay. Before I get into the Super Bowl, I got a couple things to talk about here. Myles Garrett, free agent. Is Myles Garrett a free agent? No, he's not a free agent. Myles Garrett wants to be traded. Myles Garrett's unhappy playing in Cleveland. Myles Garrett is unhappy of the Cleveland organization not getting anything in form of a quarterback or anything in the form of some kind of offense to kind of protect his defense, because when Myles Garrett's out there on the field, he's an absolute beast. He might be one of the greatest pass rushers we've seen since Reggie White. The guy is an animal. He's all over the place, and he's playing like three positions. Now, the Cleveland defense is very good, but their offense has been suspect for years. Cleveland, you guys are just like the Jets. And Cleveland fans, Jet fans, we commiserate. I know Jet fans will say that. At least we have 1969 as a Super Bowl. I don't count it. I think the Jets have 0 Super Bowls because I've never seen one. Cleveland fans have never seen one either. Let Myles Garrett go. Let him go to a team that is a contender. Let that man go somewhere where an organization is actually going to do something, or organization that's actually have something in there, something stable, so that man could go and stand next to somebody and kill quarterbacks, knowing that his coach and his ownership are going to be behind him 100% and get stuff to plug in around him. Now, the one place that I think that Myles Garrett should go is Myles Garrett would be a perfect fit in the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions are a team that happened this year. I don't know what happened to the Detroit Lions this year. The Detroit Lions killed everybody. They passed the ball all over the place, scoring hundreds of points this year. Their defense came up big when they needed to. Aaron Glenn is gone now. So what I'm about to say is maybe adding one more player to that Detroit Lions defense would have been the player that put them over the top. But you're also talking about a team who lost their defensive coordinator, and their defensive coordinator happens to be wearing green and white right now. So what are the Detroit Lions going to do about their defensive coordinator? I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. If Myles Garrett is unhappy and they could work out some kind of trade with the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett on the other end, waving to Aiden Hutchinson, I think that makes the Detroit Lions still a contender to go back to the NFC Championship and contend for a Super Bowl. Keep an ear on the Titans out there. I read something. I don't know where I read it. I read it on Twitter somewhere, and you know how the internet, is always right, wrong, and just hearsay. It's just speculation. But the Tennessee Titans may be looking to shop their first pick. Some teams out there that are going to be really high on that first pick because they want Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, and Cam Ward. These are 3 players that are going to go 1, 2, 3. It's just a matter of what order they're going to go. And with the Tennessee Titans, with the first pick, that first pick could be worth a lot of picks and maybe a lot of players for the Tennessee Titans. Watch for maybe the Giants to make a move up there because I think the Giants might have their eye on Shador Sanders. Josh Allen got the MVP. I say good. You know why I say good? Not too many Jet fans are saying that because how could you say good? You're a Jet fan. We hate Josh Allen. We hate the Bills. We hate everything about them. We hate everything about the Dolphins. We hate everything about the Patriots. We hate everything about anybody in our division doing well. Well, I don't look at it that way. I look at it from perspective of I am so mad at my football team right now. I stopped watching the midseason, but I can't stop watching football because I'm a football fan. I stopped paying attention to what was going on and only paying attention to what was going on in Aaron Rodgers' life. Because I'll tell you right now, that is one of the most interesting human beings that is on this planet right now is Aaron Rodgers. So yes, I've been paying attention to him. And no, I have really not been giving the Jets the significance of me watching any of those guys play football until they hired Aaron Glenn. I'll get into Aaron Glenn in a couple of minutes, but let me finish why I am rooting for Josh Allen. I was rooting for Josh Allen, and I'm happy that he got that MVP because the Jets, I'm so mad that I'm just rooting for the Bills. And when they lost, I actually wanted them to win the Super Bowl. That's how much I hate the Jets at this point. But you know what? Congratulations to Josh Allen because you go up against other players. Listen, you could have given it to Lamar Jackson because you know what? Lamar Jackson had a phenomenal season. He had a season that's going to go down in history as Michael Vick-like and maybe a little better. But was he the most valuable player on that team? Possibly. But you know what? If he's not on that team, you have a really, really good running back that could have been a possible MVP as well. So you have 2 possible MVPs on the same team. I don't think either one of them are more valuable. So that knocks them out for MVP in my book. Give it to Josh Allen because the Buffalo Bills, without Josh Allen, are a 5-win football team. That man does everything. That man calls the plays. That man blocks. That man runs. He scores touchdowns and he throws a hell of a football to two wide receivers and a rotation of wide receivers that have been coming in and out of that offensive core there. That Josh Allen is just throwing the ball to anybody and he's running at a high rate, getting killed along the way. And you know what? That touchdown that he scored against Kansas City when he ran right over that Kansas City defense, that put Josh Allen on the map as my vote for MVP. And good luck to you guys next year because you're going to need it because it's only a matter of time before I start talking shit about my Jets and the Bills will be the enemy again. And I am going to be all in with the Jets, but I have to grieve a little bit because it's been way, way too long for me rooting for a football team that I think does not give themselves the best shot to win and does not give me any joy. So let's put that on hold. Enjoy the Super Bowl today. Josh Allen, congratulations. Congratulations from the bottom of my heart for getting the MVP because you know what? You deserve it. Sam Darnold showed in that playoff game that he should have been wearing a green and white jersey. Why do I say that? It's because the Sam Darnold that took snaps for my football team showed up in that playoff game. Sam Darnold might have lost himself $100 million during that loss in that playoff game. How could somebody that played so well all season long shit the bed so badly as Sam Darnold did that last game? Now, I guess he was exposed a little bit because I guess you know as well as I do that going further into the playoffs, the defenses get better, the schemes get better, the coaches get better, and maybe they just figured it out. But the Minnesota Vikings coming in second place this year, winning 14 football games, is a little bit insane to me. But you know what, though? Sam Darnold had a big part in that. I understand they had Justin Jefferson. I understand they had Addison going crazy this year, too. He had a pretty decent running game, an offensive line that was willing to throw down with anybody in the league. But you know what, Sam? He came up small when it mattered. And that's what happened to you when you put on a green and white uniform. I'm not saying the talent's not there. You weren't coached correctly in the green and white. But you know what? Something happened to you in that playoff game, and maybe you just weren't prepared for that big moment. So the Vikings going to have a big decision to make. Are the Vikings going to send you packing and try to maybe get you some money in free agent? Are Vikings going to say maybe J.J. McCarthy's really not ready yet? I know they love that kid, and I know they want him as their quarterback. But you know what? Sam Darnold, you're probably going to wind up getting a contract somewhere, and you're not going to get the $100-something million contract that you thought you were getting. You're going to get a decent contract, and you might go down on history as a really, really good journeyman quarterback. Well, good luck, Sam, wherever you show up, and good luck to the Vikings because as they are going to go off on that journey next year, probably with J.J. McCarthy at the helm, and they were very, very high on him. The Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a huge question mark right now. They have a huge question mark at quarterback. They had Russell Wilson running the plays this year for them. You had Pickens, who was a little bit of a pain in the ass to say the least. Okay. You have Justin Fields on the sidelines. Justin Fields, what happened? I don't know if Justin Fields might be a matter of coaching. Maybe Justin Fields has to run into that right guy that's going to show the kid how to play football. But all I know is he was another guy coming into the NFL that everybody was so high on. This kid's going to be great. He could run. He could throw. Goes to Chicago. He's not the guy in Chicago that everybody thought he was going to be. So what happens? He leaves, goes to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh says, okay, Justin Fields is going to be my quarterback. But wait, we're going to sign Russell Wilson as well. Russell Wilson's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. What are we going to do? We're going to have Justin Fields against Russell Wilson. Who's going to win? So they pretty much choose Russell Wilson as their quarterback. Justin Fields sits on the sidelines, not getting any better, making steps backwards. Okay, so let's look at Justin Fields and let's look at Russell Wilson. I don't think either one of those two guys are going to be starting quarterbacks on the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to probably have to go for some crafty veteran, or they're going to have to go some route that a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers fans are not going to want to hear. But I understand that you Steelers fans are used to winning. I understand you Steelers fans are used to being in the playoffs. And I even understand the fact that you think your coach isn't doing his job or you think your coach is terrible. I would take Mike Tomlin in a heartbeat for my football team. He's a no-nonsense guy who lets the coordinators run their shit, and he just leads a team. But you know what, Steeler fans? Maybe you guys are just sick and tired of the same guy. I don't know. I would take Tomlin to helm my football team any day of the week. But Steeler fans, like I said, you are going to have a hard time getting that quarterback unless you come in like a thief in the night and you just give everything up. You keep your team the way it is, and you trade for that first pick with the Tennessee Titans, and you grab one of these quarterbacks, and you start a brand new Pittsburgh Steeler dynasty with Shador Sanders. I don't think that's going to happen. That's just me throwing it out there. That's just me being a pot stirrer. I think Sanders is going to play for the Giants, but we will soon see. What else we got going on here? Jamar Chase has not been extended yet, but I think it's a pretty good prediction that Jamar Chase will be extended. He's probably going to get about 35 to 40 a year. But his boy on the other side, T. Higgins, not too happy. T. Higgins thinks he's just as good as Jamar Chase. T. Higgins might be, I don't even think he's even close to it. T. Higgins is a really good wide receiver. T. Higgins is going to get a lot of money, but he's not Jamar Chase. So Cincinnati, you're going to have a real decision to make. Only going to be able to give one of those guys a big contract. I think you're going to probably make the right decision and extend Jamar Chase and make him the highest paid wide receiver, close to Justin Jefferson or maybe surpassing him. And I think T. Higgins, you're going to probably move down the road to another team that's probably going to give you about a $20 to $25 million contract. You're going to have a good season. You're going to have a year. And if you get to the right team, you might put that team over the top to win a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow needs protection, Cincinnati. If you're a Cincinnati fan, if you're listening right now, the owner, anybody that has to do with the Cincinnati Bengals, get that poor kid an offensive line. Get him somebody that can protect him. Get him some 5 dogs that are willing to go to war with Joe Burrow, because another comeback player of the year on Joe Burrow's mantle is doing nothing for his legacy. That kid is an amazing quarterback. He can throw the ball all over the place. I know it helps that he's got Jamar Chase, one of the greatest wide receivers in the game right now, but the kid gets shafted every single year because his offensive line is shit. And they let him run for his life. They let him get his ass kicked, and he's tired by that fourth quarter. So Joe Burrow, whatever you need to do, go out and lobby for some offensive linemen. Do exactly what the Jets did, but what the Jets didn't work. Well, it worked because it was better than last year. But if Joe Burrow, if you have just a little bit of a good offensive line, you're going to be throwing the ball over the place. You're going to be happy, and you might win a Super Bowl with a better offensive line. The Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys hired Brian Schottenheimer as their coach. Brian Schottenheimer, not Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer, the dad. You guys all remember Marty Schottenheimer? Well, maybe everybody my age remembers Marty Schottenheimer. Guys that are a little younger, maybe you know Brian Schottenheimer. You guys know the Schottenheimers as losers. Now, Brian Schottenheimer was an offensive coordinator for my football team about 15 years ago. Marty Schottenheimer coached a lot of football teams. I can't go off the route, the ones that he coached for right now, but all I know is he could never make it to the big one, or he always lost the big one. Brian Schottenheimer coming in as the Dallas Cowboys head coach has to make the Dallas Cowboy fans seething mad. You have Mike McCarthy there. Mike McCarthy is a veteran coach, a leader of men, has been to Super Bowls, okay? You're bringing in a guy, Brian Schottenheimer, who, as Jerry Jones said, has a lineage, has a history, has a family history. Marty won nothing, Jerry. Marty won nothing. His son, Brian, is the head coach of one of the most polarizing football teams in the sport right now. You guys realize that you just gave your quarterback, Dak Prescott, the largest contract right now for a quarterback? The guy is making, I don't know if he might be making $1 billion. He's the highest paid quarterback right now. You have an upset defensive linebacker, defensive end, defensive everything player. I don't even know what to call this guy because he does it all. Micah Parsons is going to want to be extended. Micah Parsons is going to want to stay or go to a place where you have something concrete, something saying that, yes, we're not just throwing it away. Yes, we're the Dallas Cowboys and we want to win. Not we're hiring Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach and let's see what happens. Micah Parsons is going to need an extension. I know that he's probably going to sign an extension, but he's going to need a big extension because I know he's got a podcast. I know he's got a big mouth, and I know he could be easily swayed by another football team if the Dallas Cowboys are not happily giving him an extension this year and waiting for him to get the free agency. Because you let him get the free agency, he will be gone in a heartbeat. He may even pull a Saquon and go in his own division down to Washington. Who knows? But Micah Parsons definitely needs to get extended. Now, the Giants. The Giants are watching the Super Bowl right now, all knowing they'll never admit it that they made a huge mistake. Now, we could go into logistics of all that happened. We could go into the logistics of people that follow this football team on a daily basis and say, well, this, that, and the other thing. A casual football fan from the outside looking in looks at the Giants right now. Daniel Jones is a backup quarterback in Minnesota. Saquon Barkley is playing to win a Super Bowl and quite possibly have one of the greatest seasons that a running back has ever had in professional football. He is in the conversation. He is in the conversation this year to probably possibly might have another person getting the MVP. He had a season this year that's going to be talked about in the history of football for years and years and years to come. It's going to be remember that season that Emmett had, remember that season that Jim Brown had, remember that season that Barry Sanders had, remember that season that OJ had, and oh yeah, remember that season that Saquon Barkley had, because he's going to have about 4 or 5 more of those seasons because the Philadelphia Eagles, who I'm going to get into in a couple of minutes, have a young and probably the best offensive line in football that will die for those guys. So that's the reason why the Giants right now are at home saying, why did we lose Saquon Barkley? Because you chose to give a graduate of Duke University millions and millions of dollars because he had a couple of good games. The Giants have egg on their face. The Giants are watching the Super Bowl right now. Mara is sitting with all of his ownership buddies, and all of his buddies are going, Mr. Mara, ha ha ha, breaking his chops. You made a big mistake because I'm going to tell you guys at the end of this podcast who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. It's going to be a close game, but whoever's going to win, Mr. Saquon Barkley is going to have a huge game. But you know what, Giant fans? That's okay. You know why? Because like I've been saying in the past, and like I say all the time, the Giants are a legendary legacy organization. The New York Giants are who they are because of what they've done through the years. They win Super Bowls, they win playoffs, and they pick good players. They're on a little bit of a bad run right now, but you know what though? At least they're not my team, the New York Jets, because the New York Jets have not given me anything to cheer for, anything to root for, anything to be happy for more than maybe a month or two when we're supposed to get this guy, or this guy's supposed to be good, or maybe we might get here. My whole life as a Jet fan is my whole life as a Jets fan has been saying, what if this? What about this? This guy might be good. I'm glad we got this guy. What if, what if, what if? There's no what ifs anymore. This is a football team that cannot get out of its own way. And I really say all the time the fact that I think that there's something to be said about the fact that there's a curse when it comes to Namath. And it's the worst curse ever. I don't want to get into it again because it's getting kind of funny, but there's something serious going on with the New York Jets who can never, ever seem to get out of their own way. We have a Hall of Fame quarterback. We have running backs. We have a completely revamped offensive line from last year. We have not one, but two running backs. We have not one, but two wide receivers. We have an offensive line right now that's completely different than the offensive line the previous season. We have some veterans. We have some rookies. We have some guys that may be playing out of position. But you know what, though? There were 5 men that were better than the 5 men that were there last year. Defense. Before the season started, the Jets defense are going to win football games. What the Jets defense going to do? I'm so curious to see what the Jets are going to do. The Jets defense. The Jets defense is the reason why football games were lost this year. This Jets defense that we were salivating to see for day one. We were salivating to see Aaron Rodgers get back at the helm of that offense. We were salivating to see what a not pissed off defense looks like when they spent the entire season on the field and they were tired by game 10, game 11. They were just shot, tired, and mad at the offense. The defense must have been psyched. We got Aaron Rodgers. The defense was terrible this year. The defense was scared, undisciplined, and did not want to win and did not want to play football games. And that, my friends out there, is my what I think of the Jets right now. And what I think of the Jets right now was a direct reflection on coaching. We had a bunch of pussies coaching the football team. And when I say pussies as men, I don't, maybe they're not pussies. They're all tough guys. That's not what I'm saying. But none of them had the balls to stand up and tell Aaron Rodgers to shut the fuck up. None of them had the balls to turn around and look at that defensive line and say, take some goddamn accountability. None of those guys on that Jets coaching staff should have been coaching professional football last year. Not Rob Saleh, not any of these guys. Okay? At least with Aaron Glenn coming in there right now, you have a guy that's on a mission. You have a guy that left a winning football team. He didn't get them to where they needed to be, but that was on Campbell. But Aaron Glenn prepared that defense for everything he could. Aaron Glenn played and coordinated defense in the Detroit Lions that played handicapped with men all season. They were down linemen, they were down cornerbacks, they were down once the lineman would come back, a linebacker would go down. 6 starters were in and out of that Detroit Lions defense throughout the season. And you know what Aaron Glenn did? He got lemons and he made lemonade. That's exactly what happened. So Aaron Glenn is the leader of my football team right now. I'm going to pause when I say, Jets, I'm going to pick you up in a couple of weeks. Happy to see Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, please, whatever you do, just make men out of that defense. Let these guys run free and let them play football, and maybe they'll be in discussion in a couple of years as one of the better football teams in football. I got an unpopular opinion. I know it is because I listen to Jets podcasts. I listen to Jets TV. I watch interviews and this, that, and the other thing. But you know what? I want Aaron Rodgers back. I want Aaron Rodgers back as a starting quarterback of this football team. I don't know if it's going to be a good look for a rookie head coach and a rookie GM. But you know what? Aaron Glenn has already shown that he is on that football team to give discipline. He is on that football team to let everybody know that I am here, shut the fuck up. And I think that's going to mean Aaron Rodgers too. Because if Aaron Rodgers wants to get along with a guy like Aaron Glenn, he's going to have to succumb to a little bit of, yelling and screaming. Because I think Aaron Glenn is going to keep that football team in line. I think we go to war with Aaron Rodgers for year one. We got that Florida State kid. And hey, we suck next year. We get a pick. Who knows? But anyway, timeout on the Jets till next year because I'm not going to talk about them anymore. And like I said, thank you, Josh Allen. Thank you, NFL, for giving Josh Allen that MVP. Because as a Jets fan and a Buffalo hater, that's the reason why I say bravo, Josh Allen. Jaden Daniels this year, rookie of the year. Jaden Daniels is going to go into his sophomore year next year. I think Jaden Daniels is going to go into his sophomore year looking better than he looked this year. That kid looked like a football player. He looked like a gamer. Dan Quinn's got him playing on all cylinders. He could run, he could throw, he could scramble, and he could run up the middle too. He takes hits. He may have to gain a couple of pounds because he's pretty tall and lanky, but the lankiness, I think, is part of his speed because the way he moves his body and the way he evades tackles, this football team is here to stay. I'm going to shout out to my boy Eddie out in California. Eddie loves the Washington Commanders. I guess we'll call them the Commanders now that they're relevant. The Washington Commanders are going to be here to stay. The Giants are going to be on the bottom basement looking up for a couple of years because there's 3 teams there. Actually, 2 teams because the Dallas Cowboys are a team. They might be one step above the basement looking up. You got the Eagles and the Washington Redskins, Washington Commanders, who are going to be good for years and years to come. Jaden Daniels, bravo on your rookie season, and bravo for almost becoming the only rookie quarterback to take their football team to a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, you met a really hungry, a really good, and a really tough Philadelphia Eagles team that had another thing to say about that. So, Jaden Daniels, keep going. Bill Belichick's at the Super Bowl this week on the red carpet. Bill Belichick's on the red carpet with his girlfriend. Bill Belichick's got a 24-year-old girlfriend. Who wins in that relationship there? Everybody says Bill Belichick is dating a 24-year-old. She's only there for his money. People say that maybe she is there for his money, but Bill Belichick is 70-something years old, doesn't want to just disappear. He's divorced, no strings attached to him. Maybe he's just having fun. There's 2 stories to that. The girl wins because she's dating Bill Belichick. She's dating possibly the greatest coach to ever coach football. I don't know if she's a football fan. I don't know. Maybe she is a gold digger because I can tell you right now, Bill Belichick probably has a shitload of money. But I can tell you one thing. Science has proven that they can produce pills right now. Pills that men like Bill Belichick can take where he can enjoy his 24-year-old girlfriend. So who wins? I think it's a tie right there. She gets Bill Belichick. She gets the fame. She gets the money. He gets to walk around with a hot 24-year-old girl on his arm and, hey, maybe get laid here and there. So there's no winners in that. There's no losers. That's a tie because Bill, you win. And look, she wins too. I don't know what her friends are saying, but she's like, I'm dating Bill Belichick. Who you dating? Anyway, that's a win for both of them right now. Now, the NFL plans to conquer the world. That's right. I said the NFL's plans to conquer the world took one step further over the weekend. The NFL plans, I think, on world domination. Not only have they conquered the entire country, not only have they put a product out there that no matter what is going on that day, if there's a football game going on that day, let alone the Super Bowl, they will either A, just cop to the numbers and say we're going to lose anyway, or B, completely change their day. The NFL is branching out. Now, we've all seen it in England, we've seen it in Mexico, and we've seen it close. It's been announced that next year, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be invading Dublin, Ireland. Now, I have some Irish friends that are from Ireland. I have some friends that love their soccer over there. I have some friends that tell me that the hooligans over there could be pretty tough, and they love their soccer. Pittsburgh Steeler fans, you guys are nuts. You guys are tough. You guys are crazy. How are Pittsburgh Steeler fans going to intermingle next year with some of the toughest soccer hooligans in the world? Maybe some soccer hooligans that don't want to see football coming into their city. Maybe they don't want to see American football. I don't know. I'm just throwing a story out there. You never know. But all I know is world domination wants to be theirs. Lord Vader is up there saying, you know what? It's not enough to go to Germany. It's not enough to go to Ireland. Why don't we go to Australia? Australia, American football in Australia? What are they going to do with football over there in Australia? You know what they're going to do? They're going to go to the game. They're going to wear a jersey from every single football team in the NFL because whatever team goes to Australia, they're not going to know what's going on. I have a really, really good friend of mine. My wife's best friend lives in Australia. She's married to an amazing guy named Mark. Mark doesn't know the first thing about American football, but he could tell you about Australian rules football. Mark could tell you nothing about who the quarterback of the Patriots is. He doesn't know who the quarterback of the Jets is. Well, maybe he does because when I see him once or twice a year that I do, we talk about football. And I can tell you one thing, he could probably care less about what's going on if the NFL goes to Australia. I'm going to ask him, and that would be great because I just saw recently somewhere where Australian people get a lot of views on YouTube. Maybe I'll give that a try. Maybe I'll contact my boy Mark, and maybe Mark will be willing to sit down and do an interview. And you guys could find out what it's like in Australia. I don't know. That's for another show. But anyway, the NFL going to Australia is nothing but the amount of money they're going to be making. They're going to sell the jerseys. They're going to sell the tickets. They're going to have flights. They're going to everything that has to do with the fact that the NFL going to Australia has to do with the mighty dollar. And I understand that everybody's saying that the players are going to want to play another week. They're going to want 18 games. They're going to have 20 weeks. They're going to push their product. At the end of the day, ultimately, I know they want to push their product. So President's Day is the next day, and Super Bowl and the day after are holiday. So eventually they're going to get there by adding another game. They got to maybe get rid of 2 games in preseason, or as we saw, maybe there's something to preseason. Preseason football is a time for conditioning. Preseason is a time for taking a peek at what you got on your team. But the amount of football games that these guys play already, the amount of beatings that they take on a daily basis. Now, let's just take money out of the equation. Let's just take the fact that they're doing what they wanted to do. They're living out their dreams. They're football players. Their dream was to make a lot of money playing professional football. Just take all of that out for a second. Every Sunday, those guys get on a football field and they get the shit beat out of them. You watch the quarterback get beat up. You watch the running back get beat up. The wide receivers run all over the place. But what you don't see is the trenches. Now, the trenches, the D line, the offensive line, the linebackers, these guys are the ones getting down and dirty in these trenches. These are the guys that are fucking tired. These guys are banging with each other every minute of every play. These guys are the ones that you're going to ask to get on a plane to fly all the way to Australia. I've been there. It's a 24-hour flight. You don't get your shit back until you're about 3 or 4 days in. And look, you guys got to play a football game. But wait, I'm a little delusional. I don't know what's going on. I understand that both teams have to go there. I understand that everybody's got to go through the same thing. But Australia's far. Germany's far. Dublin's far. England's far. But Australia is far. This is going to take a toll on these guys' bodies. It's going to take a toll that everybody wants to see this game played on a high level. Okay. I'm really, really curious to see what they're going to be like when they come back from a road trip, going to Australia and playing a meaningless meaningful, I guess, for their record, but meaningless for their fans. How many, let's just say Cardinals and Saints, how many Cardinals and Saints fans are going to buy tickets to Australia? Great family vacation. That game is going to cost you $50,000 for an American to go see their team play in Australia. Unless they can just count on Australians coming to the game and they can bump their tickets up because Australians don't know how much football tickets cost. They're going to pay an arm and a leg. And you know what, though? Let's put every single jersey out there for sale because they're probably going to buy the jerseys too. It's a marketing craziness too. The marketing part's genius. Set up shop in the stadium. Jerseys, 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 tickets, tickets, tickets. That's what it's all about. The players, I'm sure, don't like it, but they're going to go along with it at the end of the day. So, hey, you want to go see a game in Australia? You're going to get your chance in about 2 years. You want to go to Dublin if you're a Steeler fan next year? Go to Dublin. I've never been to Ireland. I hear it's very nice. But you know what? Not going to be good for the players. Let's keep football here in America. And it's not a selfish thing. It's just something from the fact that I feel that it's going to take a toll on the way the game is played as a whole. Now, let's get to it. Today is Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl Sunday is being played today by the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. I know what everybody's saying out there. I'm sick of the Kansas City Chiefs. I know what everybody's saying out there. I hate the Eagles. But you know what, though? Whatever team you rooted for this year in the NFL, whatever team that you call your favorite team, whatever team you think should have been here and they're not, at the end of the day, these are the two teams that made it. These are the two teams that are playing together today against each other to tell us who is the best team in the NFL this year, which coach schemed the best, which offense played the best, which team is the best team in football, and who's going to walk off that field with the trophy. Excuse me. I'm going to take a little sip of my coffee before I get into this. Now, these two teams that are playing are not for lack of coaching. Now, we're going to Andy Reid in a second, but Nick Sirianni is in Philadelphia. Nick Sirianni is in his fourth season coaching with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if you remember correctly, Sirianni brought a 2023 Philadelphia Eagles team to the Super Bowl, where ironically, he went head-to-head against Andy Reid, and they lost. They came up in the losing end of that game. Jalen Hurts, not to lack of him not having a great game, not to lack of Philadelphia not playing well. I think they were down a defensive player or two. But Sirianni went up against Andy Reid, who might be magical. And I'm serious when I say this because you could talk about the refs. You could talk about stuff like that. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But Andy Reid might be a magician. We may just not be seeing it. Andy Reid might just be like Gandalf, or might be like Merlin, or might be one of these like wizards that's like, hidden in a coaching uniform, because some of the stuff that Pat Mahomes does on a football field is only, to me, watching could be considered magical. I mean, you watch Saquon Barkley this year run, spin, jump, and do like a half a twist hop, and I'm like, that was magical. But that was like one time. You watch stuff Pat Mahomes does on the football field that is literally could only be considered magical. Andy Reid is like that mastermind evil genius you see in some kind of movies, because when I say that, nothing is out of the realm of possibility for a Kansas City Chiefs football team. When you have an athlete like Pat Mahomes running the helm, and Andy Reid says to Pat Mahomes, "This is the play you're going to run," and it's some crazy backhand reverse double switch, I get the ball back and I'm passing to my lineman. It's like Pat Mahomes is just going to say, never going to say, "Coach Reid, you don't think that's a weird play?" No, he's going to say, "Yes, of course." You know why it's going to work? Because you're magical, Andy Reid. So Pat Mahomes goes out there and you watch magical things happen. Now, Andy Reid against Nick Sirianni today is going to be a very, very good matchup in its own, because you have two coaches that there, like I said, Sirianni's second Super Bowl in 4 years as head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't take nothing away from that man. He's got them playing on a high level. Yes, he's got the players, but he also has to coach these guys too, because coaching goes a long way. Now you have Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. You almost have the complete Bill Belichick, Tom Brady formula, because when you talk about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, again, another magical duo. Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, they're not magical. They have to go purely on the fact that Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. Nick Sirianni is a really good coach. You look on the other side, you got Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes have the perfect combination to win Super Bowls. They have the perfect combination to win games. They have the perfect combination to win because they've been playing with each other. They've won Super Bowls together. Hell, they've been in 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. 5 of the last 6. They're going for a three-peat today. There has to be something to be said about having a high-level 300 win coach in Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes, who instantaneously, as soon as he got to the NFL, became quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs and just made shit happen. You got Travis Kelsey out there at tight end. Travis Kelsey is going to go down in history as somebody who has a football player that has the most catches in the history of the playoffs and Super Bowl. Travis Kelsey this year said, who knows what happens this year? Maybe I might retire. Who knows? Maybe I might ask Taylor Swift to marry me at the end of this game. But everything that has to be said about the Chiefs goes into the fact that they have Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. You could take players and you could just shuffle them up a little bit and just deal them out to different positions. You deal them out to different positions. You know why? Because it doesn't matter who's on the right side, doesn't matter who's on the left side. You got Travis Kelsey roaming around there. You got some pretty decent running backs. Never a star running back. Well, Pacheco's pretty good, but you're not going to call him a star. But they got running game, and they got running game to who's that guy? Who's this guy? They got wide receivers, but they do have the star at tight end, like I said. You shuffle them together like a card, you deal them out. Pat Mahomes looks around, not open, not open, looks downfield. I'll just take it myself because Pat Mahomes is the perfect combination of a quarterback that can drop back, look for the run. His offensive line's protected. If offensive line gives in a little bit, he can maybe run this way. Nothing's there. He can spin around, run to the other side. He may stop and somebody might get open for him. You know why? Because all those wide receivers, when Pat Mahomes is on the run, they never stop running. If you watch, they never stop running unless you have what's that lazy guy that they had on the team last year? But anyway, he's gone. But they never stop going. You know why? Because there is a chance that the more Pat Mahomes runs around, the more he's going to make happen. And he'd love to throw the ball 15 yards down the field, 30 yards down the field, 60 yards down the field. But if you're not going to get open, he's just going to run and get the first down himself. Now, that's a matchup right there. Matchup number one that I'm going to look at for this Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes, but on the other side, you're looking at a defense that's coming into the Super Bowl as the number one passing defense in the NFL. They have been best against the pass this entire season. They've contained the passes. They got good running backs. They've been chasing quarterbacks. They've been sacking quarterbacks. So Pat Mahomes is going to be forced to do stuff that he does all the time. I'm not saying he's going to be forced to do stuff that he doesn't normally do, but he's going to be being forced to do stuff by a defense that is running on all cylinders. They have a defensive line that, without a doubt, is going to be chasing him all day. They have young cornerbacks. Young cornerbacks don't get tired. Young, talented cornerbacks don't get tired and they do their job. You have safeties on that team that are willing to hit hard. And you got a couple of middle linebackers on there that if the defensive line gets past that offensive line and they chase Pat Mahomes out of the pocket, Pat Mahomes getting ready to make a shot, these linebackers are going to be right there, making it a lot harder than most of the teams have been on Pat Mahomes because this defense is going to be go, go, go all day. That's going to be the key to beating the Kansas City Chiefs today. The key to beating the Kansas City Chiefs today is instantaneously, whoever's lining up on Travis Kelsey, hit Travis Kelsey as hard as you possibly can. Hit Travis Kelsey hard to a point where he's got to drop back a half a step and say, oh, shit. These guys mean business. So maybe Travis Kelsey on some plays where he's supposed to go out and get a quick pass, he might be forced to stay back and block a little bit. So that means you make him scared. That means you make Mahomes a little scared that he's going to get hurt. Then he can hurt you from the outside and throw the ball. But you know what, though? If that defensive line gets past that offensive line, the middle linebacker is going to be there. So force Pat Mahomes to make plays with his feet. He's going to kill you if you let him stay in the pocket because he's going to pass to somebody. And if somebody's not open, he's just going to run. So this Philadelphia defense has to contain. And when I mean contain, they have to hit Mahomes. The only quarterback in the history of football that you're really going to say this about is you have to do the same thing to Pat Mahomes that you do to Tom Brady. Now, these are quarterbacks that are in the same breath because two of them are the greatest that ever put on cleats. Just happens to be recent players. You could say, oh, this guy's better than this. Pat Mahomes hasn't done anything. Pat Mahomes has done a lot. Pat Mahomes has done a lot more than most quarterbacks have done in their entire seasons before the age of 30 years old. So you have to control Pat Mahomes like when the Patriots happened to lose or the Patriots went down, you know why? Because the defense beat the shit out of Brady. The defense made Brady crazy. The defense made Brady starts yelling and screaming at his offensive line, asking them, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? They have to beat up Pat Mahomes the same way. They have to beat up Pat Mahomes. They have to maybe suffer maybe a late hit, maybe a 15-yarder if they're way, way back. Hit him a little late. They have to suffer the fact that they may get a run downfield. But you know what, though? If you have a clear hit on him, knock him down. He may get the pass off because that's what he does, but knock him down. Give him a little bit of a headache. Give him a little bit of a jolt. Give him a little bit of a Philadelphia Eagles welcome. Because if the Philadelphia defense plays as well as the attitudes on the Philadelphia Eagles fans, because I'll tell you right now, Philadelphia Eagle fans are savage animals, as are the Philadelphia Eagles, and as are the Philadelphia Eagles defense today, which I think that they should be swarming all over Pat Mahomes if they want to win this football game. Another very interesting matchup, I would say, and another matchup that I really want to be looking at here is the fact that Saquon Barkley is entering this football game as having one of the greatest running back seasons ever in the history of football. That's right. Think of every single running back that ran the football in the history of football. Saquon Barkley is going to be up there in the conversation to having one of the greatest seasons ever for a running back. This running back can do everything. This running back could run. This running back could hit. This running back could get yards after the hit. Now, the yards after the hit is going to be very important. You know why they said the yards after the hit is going to be very important? Because they're going up against a Kansas City Chiefs defense who's been playing really, really good. They've been the tops in every category or top 5 throughout the entire season. But the number one tackling defense coming into the Super Bowl today is the Kansas City Chiefs. That means nobody in the rest of the NFL has more tackles or has more hard hits than the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, that being said, Saquon Barkley is going to get hit. Saquon Barkley is going to get hit, and he's going to have to keep on moving. So this matchup of Saquon Barkley going up against the defense of the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be very interesting to me because if they do key on Saquon Barkley, which is what I kind of think that they are going to do today when you think about it, because Saquon's going to be the guy. Now, just because Saquon's the guy on this football team, don't take away from the fact that Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are 2 wide receivers that I don't understand why the 2 of them aren't being spoken as 2 of the best wide receiver tandems in football. I guess the reason being is because Jalen Hurts is a very unselfish quarterback. There's something about him I don't like when I watch him play, but if you look at his numbers, he's an unselfish quarterback. He'll run, he'll pass, he'll dump the ball off. So he has 2 wide receivers in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown that could break a big one at any time. So if the Kansas City Chiefs defense is going to be keen on Saquon Barkley to run or even to come out of the backfield, that's going to leave 2 wide receivers wide open at times, and they are going to throw the big ball. That's the thing I was going to say about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, again, he's going up against the number 1 tackling defense in the NFL, the number 1 defense for pressuring the quarterback. Jalen Hurts can run a little bit. He's not as mobile as Pat Mahomes, but I think that it's a imperative that the first couple of plays of the game, you send Devontae Smith long. You send him long. You send A.J. Smith to a couple of deep in-out patterns. You take a couple of long shots in the first couple of possessions to kind of keep the defense at bay a little bit. And then the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, you kind of unleash Saquon. You kind of use Saquon in the first quarter. You dump him out. You give him a couple of 1-2 yard runs. Because listen, you give Saquon 3 quarters where he's got the defense standing on their toes. Saquon's going to have a day today where he's going to be the MVP, saying that the Eagles win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that yet, but if the Eagles do win the Super Bowl today, Saquon's going to have a huge day. So what's going to have to happen here is Jalen Hurts is very lucky when it comes to, who his hold on, guys. I have to plug my computer in. Battery is going dead. 1 second here. Pause when I put it out as a podcast. I will. There we go. Okay. Jalen Hurts has a luxury with this Philadelphia Eagles defense that a lot of teams don't have. They have an offensive line who last year lost one of the greatest centers ever in Jason Kelsey, happens to be Travis's brother, who he's pretty funny. He's a little bit of a weirdo. I like his take on a lot of things, but how he's showing up to the Super Bowl with 100 Jason Kelseys or whatever it is, I think he's pretty genius. I know it's probably, it's definitely a push for his podcast, so I think it's pretty good. But maybe I'll have a podcast as big as theirs one day. But you know what? I'm not a professional athlete. But you know what? Maybe I'll take this one day. This is all practice, guys. 2 years from now, I'm going to be a professional. But this is all practice. But anyway, back to what I was saying about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has one of the best offensive lines in football. They have the best running back in football. They have two of the best wide receivers in football. And on the other side of the football, what I said to you last time, they have the number one passing defense, and they're not too bad against the run either. So Philadelphia, more than any other team, I think, in the last 4 or 5 years that the Kansas City Chiefs are coming into this game, Kansas City Chiefs are coming in and playing a Super Bowl today against a team that's going to be ready, first of all. And secondly, I think could win the football game. The spread on this game is 1 point. There's going to be a lot of money being bet on this football game today. There's going to be a lot of money line bets because I think the point there, well, I think I gave you guys a stat on the beginning of this where the Kansas City Chiefs have won 17 one-point football games in a row. Andy Reid and that offense/defense has won 17 one-point football games in a row. We've seen this team, we've seen close Super Bowls in the past. If it's a close Super Bowl, down by 3, tied football game, Philadelphia kicking the last point. Their kicker, I don't know. Kansas City Chiefs, on the other hand, have a kicker on their side that Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes both said the other day. We could win the game on a 70-yard field goal. I think Harrison Butker could kick it. Close game, they got the kicking game. Big game, that means the Eagles have run all over them and passed all over them. I'm also very curious to see how Spagnuolo handles the tush push. The absolute most boring play in the game of football. But it works every single time. Spagnuolo going to have something to defend it? Is Sirianni going to be like, I know they're going to defend it, and they're going to set up for maybe a fake tush push? All I know is it's the most boringest play in the NFL, and it works 80% of the time. Mr. Spagnuolo, what are you going to do about that? Close game, comes down to a field goal. You never know. Money line, I'm taking the Eagles because I think the Eagles are going to win the game outright. 1 point, I'm taking the Eagles. Final score of this football game, it's going to be 31-23 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'm going to go upstairs in a little while, and I'm going to make a bunch of bets with my son. We're going to go on have fun with our, FanDuel, DraftKings account or whatever. But I am going to make one serious bet here. I'm going to make bets of money on it. I am betting the Eagles to win money line, Saquon Barkley to have 2 touchdowns, and Jalen Hurts to throw 1. That's my bet today. I don't know what the odds are, but I'm throwing a couple of bucks down on that. Have some fun today with the Super Bowl, guys, because today's a good betting day. Don't get yourself in trouble. If you have a betting problem, that's just a problem, like anything else. But why not throw $100 in an account today, guys, and have some fun betting? Why not, dads out there, if you know your son's over there on his cell phone, you really don't want to talk to him about betting yet, or you don't want to talk to him, take a peek over. It's pretty fun to do. Me and my son break each other's chops all the time. I'm not condoning gambling, but if you know your son's over there and he's on his cell phone and he just haven't said anything yet, get into it with him. Maybe it could be a good talking point. And the referee situation. I know it's there. It is what it is. The NFL wants the Kansas City Chiefs to win. That's why Philadelphia winning this football game is so imperative. That's why Philadelphia going up on this Kansas City football team by at least 2 touchdowns is so important. And the fact that the referees are going to be looking for it, the fans know it. Maybe this game is going to be reffed a little bit different. Who knows? Maybe they're going to be more stringent. Maybe they're going to let some stuff go on Philadelphia's side. Maybe they're going to let a late hit or two on Pat Mahomes. Who knows? But all I know is at the moment, we are at the mercy of the referees. Whether they're corrupt or not, they're the ones that are calling the football games. A lot of these plays have been blatant. A lot of these plays have been outright preposterous. That's the only word I can think to use. A lot of these plays have been preposterous that these referees are called. But it's the fact of life that we live in, that we can complain about it all we want, but until it's changed, that is what it is. So let's go into today's football game, and the referees might make some shitty plays. They might make some bad calls. But you know what, though? Let's try and enjoy this football game today. And the football game today is going to be, let's say, it's probably going to go down in history as one of the closer, more enjoyable to watch in the history. Now, there is one thing I want to talk about, and it has to do with the fact that Taylor Swift is going to be there. And Taylor Swift is going to be there with my girl, Caitlin Clark. Now, it's no secret that on the Murph and Edubbs show, I keep talking 365, I'm shooting the breeze. I love Caitlin Clark. I love her as a basketball player. I love her as a human being. And she's a little too young for me, but who knows? Caitlin Clark is one of my favorite athletes in the entire professional sports world right now. I could go into why. I could go and do a whole podcast as to why. But you guys all know what she does on the court. You guys all know some of her reactions to some of the stuff that people say about her. But bottom line is, she is one of the toughest individuals I have ever seen put sneakers on a professional court. That being said, she's going to be sitting in the booth today with Taylor Swift watching the Super Bowl. NFL, it's great. You know, you have Taylor Swift, you know, in the box. It's great. You're going to have more eyes on the game. I'm not saying this from a perspective from like, I'm just an old codger, I'm an old man. NFL, we don't need Taylor Swift. And this is going to sound a little, I don't know, sound a little maybe offensive. I don't know if it's offensive or not, but we don't need 10,000 teenage girls at the Super Bowl just to see Taylor Swift, just to get a glimpse of her. And knowing all well that the minute they see Taylor Swift or they don't see her anymore, they're going to be on their phones or they're going to want to leave. So those are about 10,000 fans that, let's be honest, NFL, you could fill any venue. You could fill the Carolina Panthers stadium with football fans on any given Sunday. Why? Because you're the NFL. Why? Because you're one of the most successful organizations on the entire planet next to FIFA, the soccer. The NFL is a juggernaut. I just don't think you guys need to market it out there to more eyes. More eyes at the stadium, more eyes on the game. I understand more money. I understand it's good for business. But when it comes to a point of football, you don't need any more eyes on it. The eyes that are on football are the eyes you want. 10,000 teenagers showing up or watching just because Taylor Swift might be on the TV. It's good for Super Bowl. It really is. It's good because it's a family, it's a family atmosphere. Dads are there. They have daughters. And I understand that whole aspect of it. I really, really do. And it doesn't even bother me. The only thing that really kind of does bother me is it's just another ploy to get more money. So listen, Swifties, enjoy it. Taylor Swift, enjoy it. Caitlin Clark, enjoy it. Because today, for the first time ever, now this is going to be interesting because for the first time ever, and don't worry, I'm not going to go on a political rant right now, and I'm not going to talk politics, but politics is happening to trickle over into the Super Bowl today. Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States of America, will be at the Super Bowl today. Now, this is something that's going to cause high risk security. Security is going to be at an all-time high. So, Taylor, I know you're there today, and I know security is pretty tight when you're there, but just know that this extra security that's there today is for the president of the United States of America, who you kind of, I guess you guys would say that you don't see eye to eye. So this is going to be interesting having the Swifties and the Trumpers. Listen, I voted for Donald Trump for president. I'm pretty happy with the job that he's doing right now. There's a couple things we need to discuss, but other than that, he's doing a good job. He's the president. Taylor Swift has been outwardly against the president of the United States of America. I just hope that the Swifties and the hardcore Trumpers, who are hardcore on both ends, could just sit back and relax and enjoy the Super Bowl. Because if you're still listening to this podcast right now, I got a whole bunch of honest shit to say about our country. And that's either going to come later or tomorrow morning. But that's definitely for another podcast. So Donald J. Trump, I don't know if you just made it worse or if it made it easier, but security is going to be at an all-time high. Be careful. They tried to kill you once, then that does not mean that they're only trying to kill you once. That means they're going to try it again. Stand up, put that fist up, welcome everybody to the Super Bowl, and then hide. Get the fuck out of plain sight, and let's watch the football game. I'd rather keep the eyes on the Swifties and Taylor Swift right now because no one's trying to shoot her. People are going to be trying to kill you. So let's say hello to the fans. Let's wave a little bit and then go back in hiding because you got a country to save. So I need you alive. So that's what I got to say about the Super Bowl. Now, Super Bowl today, 6:30, all the pomp and circumstance is going to go with it. And that is my Super Bowl rant. That's my Super Bowl podcast. And I'm going to keep going. And if anybody wants to listen to how I feel about the NBA, or anybody wants to listen to how I feel about the Mets, I'm going to go off for about 20 minutes about that. But I'm going to be stopping this podcast right here. And then I'm going to put part 2 out. And part 2 is going to be the NBA and MLB. Now, as I said to you earlier, Boston beat the Knicks last night, which this was a couple of weeks ago. I would say it's bullshit. Doesn't matter. Basketball players don't start playing till about January, February anyway. It's all a farce. People aren't watching, which is how I feel about the NBA right now. I feel the NBA is at a crossroads right now in what they got going on. They need more eyes on their product. And for them to get more eyes on their product, they have to do some shit. Now, first, I'll talk about some unrealistic stuff that I heard the other day. Unrealistic people saying, which sounds like a really good idea, but there's too much money involved and there's too much with the stats involved. Give them 2 20-minute halves, 40-minute games, like college, 2 20-minute halves. Okay? That's going to make them play harder. That's going to lessen up on the days they need to rest. So I can't, get that in my head right now what that's actually called. But it's going to maybe put a product on the court that says, okay, got some rest, go full bore for 20 minutes, chill out, then we come back out. They play 48 minutes, and it's just like, everybody says they're tired and they don't stop playing till then. Okay, maybe 60-game season, 2 20-minute halves, and then you go from there. That's going to create more buzz. That's going to create more plays. That's going to create more players not being as tired. That's unrealistic. I get it. They're not going to lessen the amount of games, and they're not going to lessen the amount of times that these superstars are on the court. That is one thing that somebody said the other day that might be able to put more eyes on the court. Another thing that's going to put more eyes on the court is the fact that this trade deadline was the craziest trade deadline ever in the history of the NBA. You guys could say that there's been trades in the past. I mean, I understand, but listen, like I say, the 90s and 80s players are the toughest players and the best players ever. Michael Jordan, greatest player ever. This is by far the craziest thing that's ever happened in the NBA. Okay? And it's not the fact that Jimmy Butler got traded to Golden State. One thing I got to say about that, Steph Curry to me is one of the greatest players. He's a gentleman, never done anything wrong. He's got championships, MVPs. He's the man. I don't know how he is going to get along with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has been known to cause some infighting on his teams. Jimmy Butler's been known to get mad and just not play. Jimmy Butler's been known to be a little lazy, but when Jimmy Butler's on, he could torch you for 40. He could torch you with 6 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. So Jimmy Butler and Golden State, that marriage, I don't know how it's going to last. So I don't know what's going to do for the Golden State Warriors. But Steph Curry, don't worry about it, brother. Your legacy is there. And I do put you in the same breath as LeBron James as the greatest player of this generation. I am not going to let LeBron James take that thunder out of your mouth because you played at just a higher level as that man did over there in LA. So, Steph Curry, don't worry about it, brother. We'll see what happens. Let Jimmy Butler take his shots, talk to him. Golden State, you never know. Doesn't look like you're making the playoffs now, but hey, you might make a run. But there was a trade between the Dallas Mavericks and the Los Angeles Lakers that could only be considered as what the fuck. That trade came out one day and said, I don't know, maybe, you think about it, the way this trade went down. And this is the kind of like the shadiness of it. Now, if Jason Tatum was going to get traded for Anthony Edwards, let's just make that trade, make that Luka for AD. I don't think that's a good comparison for AD and Anthony Edwards, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. I think if Jason Tatum was going to be traded to Minnesota for Anthony Edwards, and that trade might happen, I think that would have gotten out. I think somebody would be like, "Holy shit, Boston's looking to get rid of Tatum. Minnesota's looking to get rid of Anthony Edwards." That's how it kind of was in the past. I mean, Anthony Edwards said it blatantly the other day. He's like, "This trade between the Lakers and the Mavericks puts everybody on blast." And when I mean everybody on blast is two superstar basketball players were traded. One of them supposedly had an attitude, and the other was like, "What the fuck happened?" So, by Anthony Edwards saying that, by every player, putting everybody on blast means people should watch it, because if an owner or a GM gets tired of your shit, or maybe thinks that you're a little too much to handle, or maybe you're just a wimp and you don't know how to fight back, so you could use your power to get rid of them. You get where I'm going with this, right? You could be traded too. And at the end of the day, there's conspiracy theories. There's stuff that actually happened. But what did happen was Luka Doncic was traded for Anthony Davis. Now, anybody out there that's trying to tell me that, A, that's an even trade. Star power, you might say maybe they're both stars, but in no way, shape, or form is that an even trade. There's people out there trying to say that Anthony Davis makes the Mavericks better because of his defense. Maybe Jason Kidd needed somebody to play defense because he's already got Kyrie. Kyrie could take over a game. Dallas is the team that maybe needed a defensive player. They needed somebody to come back on defense all the time. They needed a big man. Maybe that's what they said. Maybe they said that Luka was too big of a star. Maybe they needed somebody that was a little less of a star. Maybe they wanted somebody older, which would make no sense. This trade to me makes absolutely no sense. Luka Doncic is the top 3 best players in the NBA right now as we speak. Gets hurt every once in a while. He's been known to be out of shape. He's been known to drink a little bit. Maybe he's been known to party. But I'll tell you one thing. He is one of the greatest players that I've watched play basketball in a very, very long time. He's exciting. He's got a good personality. He puts the team on his back. This guy is from Slovenia. This guy's from a place where these guys play basketball all the time. Basketball is huge. And to make it out of Slovenia, come to the NBA and be the man. Not only is Luka Doncic one of the best players in the NBA, people might say he is the best player in the NBA if it wasn't for that freak over there in Denver. Because I'll tell you right now, Jokic, he's going to figure out one day how to make a deca double, make any sense, or septa double, because he does everything. I mean, I could talk about him all day long, but right now we're focusing on Luka. Okay. I love watching Luka play. I love watching Luka jaw with the fans. I love watching Luka have fun with his teammates. There are times when he looks a little slow because you know what, though? Yeah, he's getting a little fat. But that same guy will shoot the lights out. That night he scored 60 against the Knicks might have been one of the greatest basketball games I've ever seen. Luka Doncic is a superstar basketball player with superstar talent. that was eligible this year for something that they call a max contract. Now, I'm going to tell you in a minute why that's important. Luka Doncic was ready to make $345 million from the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I don't know about you, and probably for a lot of owners, $345 million to invest in a basketball player for the amount of time that he was being invested in is a lot of money. Not if you're 25 years old. Not if you have your entire career ahead of you. Not if you probably have 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years and 8 great years left. He was all ready to say yes to that contract. Anthony Davis, don't know where his head was at. Anthony Davis, I don't know if maybe he thought maybe he'd be traded somewhere. I don't know, because you're a human being. You got to know something's going on in that locker room. There's got to be some kind of air. Maybe LeBron was treating you a little differently. I don't know. And that's another thing we go into conspiracy theories. Under no circumstances do I think that LeBron James didn't know about that trade. I could be funny here and say, he says he was out to dinner with his family, but he was out to dinner with his family. Maybe the earpiece was in his ear, and Adam Silver, comes up. It's done, sir. LeBron James nods his head, wipes his mouth, and just continues on his dinner with his family, saying he doesn't know anything. Find it hard to believe that it's like the way I just said it, which is probably not the way it happened, but I do find it hard to believe that he didn't know anything about this trade. I find it easy to believe that LeBron this year is playing very well for somebody who's 40 years old. He's playing at a very high level. And he watched Anthony Davis just slowly decline. He's watched him sit out games in the playoffs. He's watched him, maybe able to go one night, maybe not be able to go the other night. Now, regardless of what I feel about LeBron James as a person, regardless of I feel about his comparison to Michael Jordan, I'm going to look at LeBron James right now as one of the most devastating, one of the most strongest, one of the most toughest players in the game right now that can literally, at the drop of a hat, do anything if he really wanted to and put his mind to it. He's a beast. He's strong. He's a physical specimen who just makes other basketball players at times look like little kids. Maybe he was sick and tired of AD bitching and complaining about how his big toe hurts, or complaining about his calf, or complaining maybe his shoulder, or complaining maybe that his pussy hurts. Maybe he was just in a roundabout way pissed off about that. And LeBron, maybe being a kind of guy that doesn't do anything face to face and say, "Man up, don't be a pussy." Like, "Oh yeah, I know, dog." And then yeah, bro, Nico, we gotta get rid of this guy. Now, I just said somebody's name, Nico Harrison. Now, all that stuff I just told you about why Anthony Davis got traded probably didn't happen. Just me speculating. It's just me making a story. It's just me being sarcastic. I don't know what happened. Nobody knows what happened. The only one that knows what happened is Luka and Anthony Davis. And I don't even think they know the full extent of it. A couple weeks ago, Nico Harrison, GM of the Dallas Mavericks, has coffee with Rob Pelinka. Might just seem like a normal everyday coffee, and you look a little deeper. Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison know each other like 20 years. They're boys. They used to hang out together. They used to party together. They were friends, straight up friends. It's not like the GM and the Cavs and maybe the GM for the Knicks. Maybe they get together for coffee, because they want to discuss some kind of business or they want to discuss something else. These guys are boys, okay? In a joking way, Nico Harrison says, "Ha ha ha! Why don't we make a trade? Ha ha ha! That would be funny." So you know how you are when you talk to your friends. I'm sure the conversation was, "Listen, Luka's been giving me such a headache, man. I don't know what to do with this guy." Rob's like, "Oh, listen, I will definitely take him off your hands." It's like, we got an aging LeBron that might be gone in a year or two. And Luka, if somebody could control him, he's the future star. He'll be a star in LA. It's like, why not? It's like, oh, come on. We can't trade Luka. It's like the fans will go crazy. It's like, yeah, but you can. It's like, yeah, it's like, the ownership group really isn't too happy, because they're really not going to be able to get their way, with this casino that they want to build. So, all right. So listen, Nico, let's get some kind of trade. We're not going to tell anybody else, but just make off like thieves in the night. I mean, obviously, we got to kind of let LeBron know in some kind of facet what he's going to be losing and what he's going to be gaining, but let's do it. It's like, all right, whatever, we'll see. Fast forward, Nico Harris and Jason Kidd are sitting there in a press conference. It happened the night before. Everybody, including NBA players, NBA coaches, NBA GMs, and NBA fans alike, are flabbergasted. They are so taken off by this trade They're so taken about that nobody knew about it. Even the people that are in the know didn't know. This trade just happened. Shady number one. Shady number one was nobody else knew. You're going to tell me that nobody else could have put in a package together to get Luka Doncic? You're going to tell me that nobody in the NBA would have loved to have the top three best players in the NBA right now? You're going to tell me that nobody else could have put a better package together? I'm saying that probably could have happened. No, yeah, shady because I think Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison, I think that they made a shady deal over a cup of coffee, and that just is what it is. Nobody's ever going to find out. Then we go to step two of this conversation I'm trying to have here. This press conference, Nico Harrison sitting right next to Jason Kidd. Everybody knows Jason Kidd. Everybody knows Jason Kidd as a player, amazing point guard, gritty, hard nose. We all know about his checkered past. He's been arrested for domestic abuse. He's been drunk driving, 2012 out in the Hamptons, remarried. We don't really know much about what's going on with his personal life right now. All I know is he knew the day before this press conference that he had the number three best player in the NBA. His best player in the NBA took us to the NBA Finals last year, where we lost to an amazingly well coached and amazingly hungry Boston Celtics team, beat the Dallas Mavericks last year in the NBA championship. And Luka had everything, if not everything, to do with that. He clawed back. He took the game over. He taunted the fans. He fought with the fans. He taunted the refs. He put up points. He played defense. He did every single thing possible to win that NBA championship. And when asked why, he said he could have done more. Jason Kidd just lost that. And Nico Harrison said to everybody that was listening to that press conference, everybody that's a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, everybody that's a fan of Luka, and everybody that thinks Jason Kidd is an amazing coach, an amazing player, and a good man, Nico Harrison said, I took Jason Kidd's balls and I wasn't allowing him to say anything because he might have been pissed. But I understand, and we talk all the time, and I know what he likes, and I know what kind of players that he likes. So I knew that he wouldn't have a problem with this trade going down. Now, as he's saying this, Jason Kidd is sitting there with a stare like either A, he just got pulled over by the police for DWI and he knows he's going back to jail, or C or B, he literally wants to stab him in the neck because his manlyhood was just taken away by the GM who could barely speak over 2 octaves. Now that happened right there. I don't know how Jason Kidd felt. I don't know if he wanted Luka Doncic gone, but he couldn't have been happy with Nico Harrison saying, I knew what you were going to say anyway, so I didn't discuss it. There's not enough being said about that. There's not enough being said about what he must have felt like when his balls were taken from Nico Harrison. What must have been said between the two GMs? What must have been said from other coaches in the league that said, yo, if I knew you guys were trading Luka, I would have called you up in a second. This trade was shady from the get-go. And I mean shady because let's start last year in 2023. Now, again, I'm just saying this because it's a conspiracy theory. And I'm just saying this because there's a lot of crazy ones out there, but this one kind of makes sense. Okay. The new owners, Cuban's got nothing to do with the Dallas Mavericks anymore, guys. I don't know if I follow basketball just enough to, up until January. And then January, I start paying attention to it hardcore. But I knew enough to know that Mark Cuban sold his portion of the team and still owns a very small part in it, maybe, a couple of percent, to one of the largest casino Las Vegas family in the country. I don't know if you've heard of the Sands casinos, but the Adelsons, I think their name is, they are, let's just say it, one of the richest families in the entire country. They own casinos. Now, back in 2023, city of Dallas has been going through it with the ownership group. The ownership group wants to open up a destination for Dallas Mavericks fans, a destination for Cowboys fans. They want to open up Dallas Mavericks Arena attached to a casino. Great idea, right? Not so much for the city of Dallas. City of Dallas says, okay, you want to have your little basketball team, you can have your little basketball team. You want to have your football team, Jerry Jones is pushing the envelope as much as he can. You want to have your baseball teams, but we are still the state of Texas, and this is how we do shit. So, You're probably not going to get your casino, but you might get your stadium and you might get everything else. But the gaming license is going to have to wait in the state of Texas. That being said, Dallas Mavericks have a great run. Like I just said to you before, Luka is a king. Even though they lost in the championship, Luka is a king. Luka said the right things. Luka did the right things. And for lack of a better term, he almost put that team on his back and won the championship all on his own from Boston Celtics fan to, like I said before, that was well prepared and hungry. Luka put the Mavericks on his back. Worry about Kyrie because Kyrie held his own because listen, I didn't like Kyrie in the past. I was skeptical of his game. I used to think he was a little lazy, but I never said that he wasn't one of the best ball handlers. He put on a spectacle last year too. So the Luka and Kyrie show last year almost set Dallas back. When I say that, the fans would have went even more crazy. So now they're not leaving. The fans are never going to let them go. The fans are going to say, "How could you take our basketball team? They just won a championship." In the back of their minds, the Dumont and the Adelsons are like, well, they're not going to let us build our casino. So you know what? Let's do something better. You guys ever see Major League? Cleveland Indians? Okay. Ownership comes in, wants to move the team. Forgot where. It's an old movie. That's it regardless. Her plan, put the worst team in baseball together, have them suck. The fans are going to hate them. Attendance is going to go down. We get to move our baseball team to wherever we want. Movie, that's the premise, but there's something to be said about that right there. The ownership group comes in and says, you know what? They love Luka so much, how we trade him? Okay? Nico, I know you don't like Luka. I saw you take that beer out of his hand. I see the way you talk to him. I see the way you look at him. I see the way maybe you don't trust him. Mark loved him. But I don't know. We're a little skeptical, and you seem a little skeptical of him. So what if I could make this little problem go away for you guys? Maybe you do get what you want, and I get what I want. I don't like Luka, and you guys get your casino possibly. Because when the fans find out that I traded possibly the top 3 best players in basketball right now to Los Angeles for Anthony Davis, who's 31 years old, injury prone, and literally is going to be out of basketball probably in the next couple of years because his knees can't handle it, the fans will hate us. Attendance will go down. And I'll say, you know what? Attendance is down. Fans don't like us here anymore. Let's move the team to Vegas. Let's move the team to a city where casinos are everywhere. Let's move the team to a place where we could start over. Let's move the team to Las Vegas. I get my casino. I get my little basketball team that I could sell tickets for, but that's not where their money is. Their money is in casinos. Their little basketball team that they're going to have right now, that they're going to take away, that they want to take away from Dallas, that's a little investment for them. Their big money is in their casinos. So Luka Doncic, yes, he's the top 3 best player in the game right now. But, you really don't want to completely screw the guy. You really don't want to kind of, send the guy into oblivion. You really don't want to. You guys who just got on now, I've been on for the last hour and a half, dude. That's Steve. Yes, Anthony Davis is little Gene Carlos Stanton. Now, I'm talking about Anthony Davis, because if you guys just got on, and Dylan, I see that you got on a couple of minutes ago. I was even actually talking about LeBron, taking everything else about him, talking about what a beast he is and how I kind of think he does know what's going on with this trade. But you guys missed that point. You got to listen to the podcast in an hour. But what I am going to say about this is Luka Doncic probably in his own head was like, holy shit, I can't believe they did this, but it could be worse. They could have sent me somewhere else. Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison said, look, Rob Pelinka says, all right, I could get him to LA. So this way he's not sent off to no man's land. It's not obvious that Nico Harrison was jealous of him. All that stuff's not obvious. Nico Harrison's, non-manly bullshit, being a little bitch behind the scenes, not going up to Luka, maybe, just him and, maybe if he does have a problem with him, talk to him man to man, because I don't see how Nico Harrison, I've been doing a little research on him. To me, he just seems like a little bitch. But Luka probably thought that, it's like, they're not going to do nothing to me. I'm Luka Doncic. They did do something to you, Luka. But you know what? They sent you to a place where you can be insanely marketable. By that, I mean you're 25, you went to LA, and if you play your cards right, LeBron's going to be gone in a year, possibly two. LeBron's going to retire. And LeBron, and I quote, said in 2023, when it's all said and done, Dylan, you can look this up. When it's all said and done, I would like to be part of a group that would own a basketball team in the NBA in Las Vegas. So in comes the ownership group from Dallas. Ownership group from Dallas says, LeBron, Luka's taking over the city of LA. Possibly Giannis maybe joining them. But you know what? You want a little piece of the puzzle over here? We'll let you buy into your dream. We're going to let you buy into a team in Vegas. Now, I see what you say right there, Dylan. He's going to own a team in Vegas. I understand it's all cute and all, and I understand that LeBron has a lot of money, but Chris Rock said it best a bunch of years ago. And Shaquille O'Neal said it best a bunch of years ago. It's like Shaquille O'Neal is rich, but the guy that signs Shaquille O'Neal's paychecks is wealthy. That's what it comes down to. LeBron could own his little portion of the team, put a couple $1 million in, but the people that are going to be calling the shots are wealthy people. Okay. That's exactly what's going to happen. LeBron's going to get sick and tired of Luka getting all the, all the action. Okay. And Luka is going to become an absolute mega star in LA. And needless to say, he's going to be more likable than LeBron, and he's going to jump right over LeBron because you know what? He's going to be out in LA for another 10 years, probably. He's going to be spoken about like Kobe. He's going to be spoken about like Kareem, Magic, and all these other superstars. They're going to talk about Luka. And then, oh, yeah, LeBron James played for this team too. But he really didn't do much for us except win a championship when it was COVID. But Luka, you brought us 3 championships. Luka, you play like Magic Johnson. You smile like Magic Johnson. We love you here. Let's extend you and let's give you a super duper max contract. So Luka is right now in a position to become one of the most marketable, one of the best, and one of the luckiest NBA players in the entire planet because he got away from an ownership group that didn't like him from the get-go because he was too big for them because they wanted to get out of there. He could be in LA where he could be a superstar, the biggest star in the country because he's got a different personality than Jokic. Jokic is in Denver. Jokic is the best player, but let's going to talk about Luka Doncic going down in history as one of the greatest players ever to play basketball. And he's going to take that Dallas Mavericks jersey off and say, listen, Mark, if you would have continued to own this team, I would have been fine. But you know what, though? Fuck you. I'm going into the Hall of Fame as a Los Angeles Laker. So bye-bye, LeBron. Hello, Luka. Luka made a good decision. Nico Harrison, you're going to be exposed as a bitch because Jason Kidd is going to walk into that room one day when you're sitting there all by yourself. You're going to say, wow, look what I just did. I got rid of my big-time headache. I got the ownership group off my ass. I got a player that could be construed as a superstar, but they're really not going to be saying that until he really stops playing and he really stops bitching and he really stops doing what everybody thought he was going to do. It's going to be too late by that time. The owners are going to want to leave and the owners are going to want to go to wherever I just said, Las Vegas. And they're just going to be sitting there. And they're just going to be the Las Vegas Mavericks. Luka's going to be in LA and it's going to be all over. LeBron's going to go off into the sunset and own a Las Vegas basketball team. Again, Luka's going to go down in history as one of the greatest basketball players ever to play. Story over. And that story is going to end when Jason Kidd is there late one night and he sees a light on in the back office. Nico Harrison happens to be back there in the office late too, doing some writing. Who else made fun of me? Who else can I get rid of? Kyrie sometimes. Kyrie said I was a jerk the other day. Oh, Kyrie was talking shit. Maybe I could get rid of Kyrie too. Jason Kidd's going to walk into the back there and he's going to sit down. He's going to crack a ginger ale and he's going to look at Nico Harrison. He's going to say, if you ever, I mean ever, disrespect me in front of the United States of America, in front of all of the NBA, in front of my players, in front of my peers, in front of my family, I will stop into this office and I will beat the living shit out of you. Quit and just walk out because you pulled a bitch move on me. Don't ever say that you could think for me again, you bitch. Take a sip of his ginger ale and walk right out of the office. Because Nico Harrison, at the end of the day, you used your power because you didn't like Luka. And you might have used your power because you didn't like Jason Kidd. Because I do not, under any circumstances, seeing Jason Kidd saying, "Yeah, Nico, that's a great idea. Let's get rid of the best basketball player in the NBA." So that's how it's going to go down. Dallas Mavericks are going to eventually be in Las Vegas, and the LA Lakers are going to win 3 championships with Luka Doncic. And then everybody's going to say, "Who's LeBron?" So this is going to be the end of our NBA section. I'm going to stop it here. And I'm going to do about 10 minutes on my favorite baseball team, the New York Mets. Now, I know it's Super Bowl today. I know we had a lot to talk about in the NBA, but I'll tell you right now, bold take. Think that's a good take? You think that's a bold take? Does bold mean good or bold mean bad, Dylan? Because I think that's actually pretty good. Just turned on post notifications so I don't miss the lives again. Thank you, Steve. That's what we got to do, guys. I'm what do you call it? I'm counting on you guys that are listening to me right now, and I'm gonna get the podcast out later. But counting on you guys to let this podcast spread like wildfire to your college campuses. I need to get you guys on it more because you guys are really good, man. But the way I do this podcast is I get inspiration and bang, I go. I can't ever plan it, which is crazy. But I just sat here for an hour and 40 minutes just talking all by myself. So I can definitely do it. And I need your guys' help because the promotion thing, I'm not too good with. But all of you guys were awesome on the podcast last week. So we got to get you guys on it more. And we got to push this podcast to all your college campuses. Because one day I'm going to retire from my real job and I'm going to try and take this sports shit to the next level. And you guys are going to all come with me. Just one thing to say because I got to get upstairs. Okay. One thing to say about my favorite baseball team. I got one thing to say and one thing to thank my owner for. Say anything you want about all these teams that did what they did. Look, Yankees, whether you wanted Soto, whether you didn't want Soto, you did good. You got pitching. You did good. You got some hitters. You got some ballers. You got some guys out there to play baseball. I'm not hating. I'm not a Yankee hater. You guys all know that about me. Okay? From the bottom of my heart, the Mets made the best decision they could possibly make. And when I say that is Pete Alonso signing with the New York Mets the other day puts that team into contention to win the World Series. The reason I say that is it's not just because it's Pete Alonso. So Pete Alonso could have left. Pete Alonso could have went to go sign a contract somewhere, let's say Chicago, Seattle, you name your team. Doesn't even matter if that was a team that was going to the World Series. Pete Alonso needs a team that wants Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso needs to be on a team where everybody thinks Pete Alonso is the jokester. Pete Alonso wants to be comfortable in an atmosphere where people like him. The New York Mets like him. His best friends are on the team. He's going to play better on the Mets than he would have played on any baseball team in the major leagues. And that is a personality trait with him. I think if Pete had to get comfortable going somewhere else, there'd be a lot of growing pains. If Pete had to go somewhere else where he had to instantaneously be the guy, okay, let's say Seattle, not even Seattle because they got a guy. Let's say the Cincinnati Reds hire Pete Alonso. They got a guy too, but let's say they hire Pete Alonso. They say they give him a contract. Next thing you know, Pete's the cleanup hitter on a shitty team. Pete's the player on the team that everybody looks to. When Pete doesn't hit a home run, he shrivels up and dies. It's kind of what almost happened to him when he was in the Mets in 2022. He had to be the guy. Pete's comfortable with the Mets. Pete's here for a reason. Okay. Now, I think if anybody on this lineup deserves it, Pete Alonso deserves a little protection in this lineup. Pete Alonso's never been protected in a New York Mets lineup. Now, if you look from the top 6, he has 6 players right there that can protect Pete Alonso. That is why I say to put Pete Alonso as your cleanup hitter. Okay. I'm going to go over my lineup in a second, but anybody that needs protection in that lineup, you need to protect Pete. Okay. You're going to have people like Soto in that lineup. You're going to have people like, Vientos in that lineup. You're going to have Lindor in that lineup. Pete Alonso batting fourth in that lineup. I know I went a little crazy the other day and said 55. That sometimes I do these videos and I get a little crazy. But I'm honestly going to say that Pete Alonso could give us 110 RBIs and realistically hit 40 home runs with a hope to hit 250 in that lineup. Pete Alonso is going to get shit to hit. Pete Alonso is going to get home runs. Pete Alonso is going to his batting average is going to go up a little bit. But you know what's lost on people a little bit that aren't Met fans, and Met fans saw this last year. Pete Alonso became a really, really good defensive first baseman. Lindor is the greatest defensive shortstop in baseball right now. But I'll tell you right now, every great shortstop makes these crazy throws. Pete's a vacuum cleaner over there at first place because of Francisco Lindor. And that also makes Francisco Lindor a better shortstop because Lindor could backhand, crazy double jump, flip, catch, just throw it, maybe might be off a little bit, and he knows Pete's going to catch it. Last year at the beginning of the season, Brett Baty was my third baseman. Brett Baty right now is in the minor leagues. Brett Baty is somebody that Aiden was very enamored. He met his family, said he was really nice. Brett Baty might be a really, really nice kid. Brett Baty is not a professional baseball player. Brett Baty is going to burn up the minor leagues. He's going to come to maybe a point in July or August where the Mets are playing well, and they say, you know what, let's give Baty a little bit of a shot. Baty's not a professional baseball player. You put Mark Vientos there at first base. That completely messes up the infield. Mark Vientos right now is the New York Mets third baseman for the foreseeable future. Either you got to say to Brett, you're not a baseball player, or you got to tell Baty that, look, go back to Long Island, or wherever you're from, maybe join a bar league, maybe become a stockbroker, maybe do something because you're a really, really good baseball player. And these guys out there listening to me, you guys are all really, really good baseball players. But are you professional baseball players? No. Brett Baty, you're a nice kid. You're a good player, but go be a stockbroker. Go be like something where you can make a lot of money. What did you, what did you major in college? Stop the madness now. Mark Vientos is the third baseman. And by signing Pete Alonso, the Mets did not have to make that decision. The Mets could say, Mark Vientos is my third baseman. And if he gets hurt, somebody could fill in. That's what we're talking about right now with the New York Mets. We're talking about a solid third baseman. Second base, a little suspect. Jeff McNeil. I know you're a fiery guy. I know you love the Mets. I know you're a clubhouse guy, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll take it second base, but if you go on a tear where you bat 110 for the first couple of months, don't think Acuna's not going to scoop up and say, listen here, S.A., I'm taking second base and you're getting the fuck out of here. We're going to send you to Cleveland. We're going to send you to Cincinnati. We'll send you somewhere. This is my position right now, and you need to go. McNeil's not going to like it. Look, McNeil, you won the batting title one year, okay? But I don't know. All these guys, when I think about the Mets, you're just not on my list. So, McNeil, you're going to be all right for second base, but watch out. Acuna is going to be on your radar. This guy, Siri, he's going to be our center fielder. Don't know too much about him. I know he plays a really good center field. Defensively, he's going to be all over the place. Happy with that. This is somebody that I'm kind of excited to watch play because when you move over to left field, you got a guy named Brandon Nimmo. Now, Brandon Nimmo, I feel the same way about Brandon Nimmo as I feel about Pete Alonso. I feel when Brandon Nimmo last year was coming up with his contract, and he said that Brandon Nimmo is going to get $100-something million playing for some team. Brandon Nimmo is going to get $25 million here. Brandon Nimmo is going to get this. Brandon Nimmo's a product of his environment as well as Pete. Brandon Nimmo loves the New York Mets. Now, Brandon Nimmo, there's a chance that he might be the nicest guy on the entire planet. There's never going to be a bad word said by him. And if anybody thinks that whole thing when he gets hit by a pitch or if he walks hustling to first base is an act, that is not an act by any stretch of the imagination. He is still a little leaguer at heart that plays the game like a little leaguer and plays the game like he's happy to be where he is and that it's a privilege to play professional baseball. That being said, his comfort level with the New York Mets came from that. His play came from that. So if Brandon Nimmo went to the Colorado Rockies to be their top center fielder and got $150 million, I don't think he'd be the same Brandon Nimmo. But Brandon Nimmo on the New York Mets is a stud. Brandon Nimmo on the New York Mets is a comfortable fielder. He's comfortable batting fifth, possibly switch back and forth with Vientos. You could put Vientos fifth if you want to move Nimmo up every once in a while. You can move Nimmo down maybe to ninth here and there if you want him to hit ahead of Lindor. So much things you could do with the Vientos and Nimmo switch. There's so much stuff you could do with Nimmo. But you know what, though? Put Nimmo in left field every day of the week. He's going to play 155 games. He's going to bat 275, and he's going to hit some home runs, and he's going to get some RBIs. And you know what else he's going to do? He's going to pump that fucking team up because he has energy and he has everything that goes into being a New York Mets baseball player. The one thing we need to do is bring back Iglesias. I got to throw that back in. We need that, oh my God, in that fucking stadium next year. That's something else they need to do. One more signing and I'll be happy, but it wasn't as big as the Pete signing. And then over in right field, we have the man, the myth, the legend, the decent right fielder, has kind of a spaghetti arm, but you know what? One of the best pure left-handed hitters I've seen since Mickey Mantle. That guy can hit from any part of the plate. He can hit if it's high, he can hit if it's low, he can adjust his stance, he can steal bases. He's a pure hitter, and I mean that. Him, Manny Ramirez, and Mickey Mantle, three of the best left-handed hitters I've ever seen hit. That being said, I don't think Soto wants to be the star of this team. So any Met fan out there who's complaining and worried and whatever, Francisco Lindor is the captain of this baseball team. Francisco Lindor is the leader of this baseball team. Soto is a guy that got to a team that wants to win a World Series and will be more than happy to fall in line. More than happy to say, I'm the three hitter. Keep me here for 162 games. I'm going to bat 340. I'm going to hit 30 home runs. I'm going to give you 145 RBIs. Because you know why? Because Lindor, you're going to be on base. Vientos, you're going to be on base. I'm getting RBIs and I'm protecting Pete. That's what's going to happen with Soto. Soto signing with the Mets was the best thing that Soto could have done for his career. Because Steve Cohen looked me dead in the eyes a couple of years ago and says, I want to win World Series. And yes, you're right, Dylan. It doesn't get much better than Juan Soto. I just hope and I pray, and I hope and I pray that somebody goes to him, says to him, I know you're a great hitter. I know you can hit the shit out of the ball. I know you do this well. But let me show you how to play right field. Maybe Starling Marte was not an all-star right fielder, but he's a good right fielder. Maybe Starling Marte could do a little something for Juan Soto that he did for Alvarez last year. I don't think Juan Soto is over talking to. I don't think Juan Soto is a guy that would look at Starling Marte and be like, what are you talking about all the time? I'm not taking any information from you. I do think Juan Soto should look at Starling Marte. And I think Starling Marte staying on this baseball team is a positive also because you want to talk about locker room guys. After that conversation with Francisco Alvarez last year, Alvarez became a completely different person. Starling Marte staying in that dugout and being on the side of the New York Mets, being some kind of calming effect for these players, it's going to work with Soto too. Maybe he'll give some pointers to Soto, and maybe Soto will become an all-star for the right reasons, meaning right field. That's my Mets team for this year. I know what you're going to say. Pitching. Gotta be honest with you. Pitching is okay. I'm okay with Sean Manaea being number one. I'm okay with Kodai Senga being number two, or they could be interchangeable. Because you're right, everybody out there. Everybody says we don't have a number one. We don't have a great pitching staff. The pitching staff did pretty good last year, throwing shit together and seeing what sticks. Manaea, very pumped, man. Very pumped about becoming a Met again. Very pumped about signing that contract. And if you don't see anything in Sean Manaea last year in pitching that nobody could figure him out. He's got that wide release and he gets pumped up after every game. Sean Manaea being my number one with that lineup, I'll show up World Series game one against the Yankees with that. I'll show up NLCS game one against the Dodgers with that. Just bring it on, bro. We just added to our hitting. We pretty much have the same pitching staff, but we added to our hitting. Clay Holmes, on the other hand. Yankee fans, you guys are laughing at us right now. Yankee fans, how is he going to be a starter? Baseball is a funny sport. Baseball is a sport where you guys watch it as much as I do. Baseball is a sport where the right coach can do the right things for the right people. Hear me out. Pitchers that pitched for the Tampa Bay Rays 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Tampa Bay Rays trying to stitch together teams. Tampa Bay Rays had an amazing pitching staff. Because I don't care what you say about Blake Snell. I don't care what you say about the guy that went to the Dodgers with that long last name. I don't know his name right now. Name some of these pitchers that had okay success coming out or coming into the major leagues. If you look where they started with one of the best pitching coaches in baseball. And they became pretty good. But I think if they would have stayed with the right pitching coach, they would have became great. Blake Snell would have became great. The kid I can't remember his Glasnow would have became great. So little things that pitching staffs could change in their pitchers goes a long way. And if you hear the scuttlebutt around the major leagues, the Mets have a top pitching staff slash coaching staff slash whatever you want to call them to maybe put these guys in the right direction and maybe say, look, we're not going any further with our pitching staff right now, guys. This is it. You guys are going to be it. We need this out of you. We need you to get this amount of innings. We need you to switch up this pitch. We maybe need you to switch up to a 3 to a 4. Maybe you're not the number one today. Maybe you're the number one next couple weeks down the line. But I need you guys to pitch. I need you guys to give me 7 innings as a staff. I need you guys to give me over 100 pitches. I need you when it counts the most to get in there and not be afraid of the moment, like Garrett Cole, afraid of the moment, not pitching to Xander Bogaerts. I won't talk about that anymore. I just wanted to throw that in because I think Garrett Cole is a pussy. Anyway, that being said, pitching is going to be a little hard to overcome this year for the New York Mets, but the addition of Juan Soto and the addition coming up soon, I guess, of Jose Iglesias doing everything he possibly can. That Met team right there is better than last year because of Juan Soto. It's going to be more pumped than it was last year. And there are teams out there that are scared of the Dodgers. There are teams out there that should be scared of the Dodgers. I'm going to put the Yankees in this comment too. No New York baseball team is fucking scared of the LA Dodgers. Bring that shit on. Bring Shohei Ohtani on. Because I'm telling you right now, next year, start giving that guy some chin music. Because you know what? No one's ever put that guy in his place. He never switches his stance. Shake him up a little bit. Like I'm going to say it one more time. New York baseball is not afraid of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Bring that shit on next year. I don't care what you did with your pitching staff. Bring on that Crane, Clayton Kershaw, who's going to be out in a couple of weeks. Bring on anything you want because we got hitters and we got tough dudes. When I say tough dudes, Jesse Winker. I forgot about Jesse Winker. Now, Jesse Winker may not look like much on paper. Jesse Winker is one of the best trolls in baseball right now. Jesse Winker is somebody that could get under your skin more than anybody else in the major leagues. Jesse Winker is a guy that if he plays for your team, you love him. If you're playing against him, you hate him because Jesse Winker could go down swinging on 3 pitches. But you know what Jesse Winker knows when he's going up to bat? He knows he's going to hit the ball 500 feet, even if he strikes out. And he's going to look you dead in the eyes, and he's going to tell you with his eyes, and he's going to tell you with his mouth, get the fuck out of my way and let me hit because I'm hitting a goddamn home run. It's not going to happen all the time, but that's something that the Mets need on that baseball team. They need balls. And the guys that have balls on that team that just didn't show too much has an alpha guy that's going to show his. The rest of you guys, let's start showing yours. Pete, show us. One more thing about the New York Mets. Francisco Lindor. They need to put that C on your uniform. They need to tell you that nobody else in the room, nobody else is home. You stay behind a little bit. The conversation has to happen that we're putting this C on your chest. This C means captain. David Wright was captain of this baseball team. Francisco Lindor, you've been a part of this organization now for 4, almost 5 years. You have a long time left on your contract. You should have been the MVP last year, but you showed so much poise. You showed greatness. You showed moments. Lead us. make us proud. Lead the New York Mets to a World Series. And let's fucking go. All right, everybody. Enjoy the Super Bowl. That's my Murph and sometimes Edubbs show for the day. I can't imagine that without Edubbs, I almost spoke for 2 hours. Edubbs, your job might be in jeopardy, bro. You might have took off the wrong weekend because I got 2 kids right now sitting on this chat right now that would love to take your place. So the Murph and sometimes Edubbs show might become the Murph and Dylan Dempsey show, or maybe the Murph and Volk show. How about even the Murph and Murph show? That's right, Aiden. I'm calling you out too. All right, guys. Yes, Steve, you and Dylan will be the new Edubbs. Both you guys, I'm telling you right now while you listen, text me, call me. I got one more good podcast in me, maybe the next day or two. I got some more sports I want to talk about. Why don't you guys hit me up? We'll talk Super Bowl. I also want to talk about other stuff because I'm doing a political podcast this week that is going to trigger and piss off a ton of people. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a commercial about that. Cut. Guys, stay tuned to the Murph and sometimes Edubbs show this week because we're not going to be talking about sports at some point. We're going to be talking about politics, and I'm giving people a major trigger warning. I have a lot of stuff on my mind, and I'm going to piss off a lot of people. But you know what, though? I don't give a fuck because this world is crazy right now, and we need to take it back. So stay tuned this week for a political podcast from Murph. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I am going to call it a trigger warning. Thanks a lot, guys, for listening, and I'll see you guys soon. The Murph and Sometimes Edubbs Show. Keep Talking 365 at YouTube. Let's Talk 1972 at TikTok. And you can find us on Facebook, too. That's Edubbs thing. Let's see if he gets this message. Take care, guys.